welcome to another episode of my podcast. That's fine with me. And it's probably one of those times where I just really needed to tell you my thoughts on the latest film that were released by Luc Besson, who is a director and a producer, the Dracula love tale, if I'm not mistaken. And I was super excited to watch this film because I'm a huge fan of Dracula. I really love this topic. I watched so many different films related to that, I guess, story. And then I watched the 1992 version, a 2000 Dracula with truth actor, I don't remember, Jared Butler, if I'm mistaken. Then I watched the 2014 version, Dracula new story or untold story, and then Netflix series as well as this Dracula. I would say that my favorite of all is 2014 version, and I'm going to explain why later in this podcast, but let's get started with this very interesting interpretation. That is roughly a compilation of the corniest, or at least one of the weirdest, I guess, parts from different films and series that Luc Besson compiled in one film. We start the watch time from witnessing two of the lovebirds having a great time. They're in love, they're madly in love, though when I was watching a lot of different reviews, I was not the only person who came up with an idea that probably they were just like only during their honeymoon stage or something like this, because in, for example, the version of 2014, you could definitely see a mature love. When people, their parents, when they love each other, when they care for each other, and not only for each other, but their people. The Prince Dracula was caring a lot, and he had to focus on the safety of his family as well as safety of his people. In this version of Dracula of Luc Besson, we can definitely see that they were having sex, they were eating some weird stuff and then smudging this all over their faces. They had some fun in the pillows, they slept together, they played with fire, and then they had sex again. That was practically it. That is the first portion of their incredible love that is undeniably the best thing that ever happened to them. And while they were having sex, a lot of people were watching them doing this, and out of nowhere, his soldiers, they came into the room and they literally grabbed the prince who was having sex with his wife during the process of a prince. So they picked their prince and they said, now we have to go and have a battle. Yeah. And they started dressing him up, and I was like, isn't he like in the process? And it's really hard to put every single part of his body in the leather pants, and on top of that, many more layers. And he was coming back from his soldiers back to his wife, kissing his wife, and they will pull him back from his wife and then start dressing him further, and then he would come back again to his wife. And it was like back and forth moment. I was like, is it just like a realistic thing for them to have sex and their soldiers just gonna come over and start getting Prince like he's a buddy who was not only with his wife, but just like some random girl that he picked up from the club? I mean, like, it was given more that vibe or anything like this. But okay, then we try to see like what's gonna happen with the story, with the plot, how it's gonna evolve. I'm gonna be pretty much honest that the costumes, the dresses, they were really beautiful. I really loved that. The vision, and I guess the whole picture, it was very beautiful, undeniably. But during the final battle that they had against Muslims, they didn't specify who these Muslims were, because like at least in 2014 option or adaptation, they were like Turkish, and in this way we don't really understand who these people were and why they were against them, why were they on their territory. And their greatest battle that they had to participate in was weird because, you know, it just didn't, it was lacking the amount of people, because it felt like the set wasn't full, and they had a thin row of soldiers that went through some fighting, and then they started the fire. The purpose of this fire we didn't really get, because Muslims, they came through this fire without burning, so just like for dramatic purpose, I guess they needed some fire. But the weirdest part started when they actually started the battle, and it was almost, I guess, like late March, when the snow was almost gone. And during this battle, out of nowhere, the prince, before going there, he said, my love, to his wife, you have to go, and you're going to be so much more safer in a little bit different place. So he sends her out with probably like 3 or 4 additional warriors, and that has to be enough to make sure that she was safe. And that was the first thing that I was like, why would she go while they have the battle? No one was attacking the castle, was no threat. The weirdest part that the priest was still staying behind the castle, and the castle was super small. I mean, like, where did all they live? All these soldiers, where did they come from? I mean, like, it was so unreal and unrealistic, I would say. And she was attacked in the forest. It was weird because it was super snowy. And like, So how long was she gone? Where in this, I guess, path, it was extremely snowy, like it's February probably. And while they were fighting against the Muslims, it was almost like late March and the snow was almost gone. And when the end of the battle happened and he went to the prince of other, I guess, of Muslims, I don't know, we don't really get the nation of these Muslims. I don't know why. And so when they came back, it was late evening or even night. And out of nowhere, some kind of guy who was supposed to, I guess, protect his wife came back and said, "Oh, your wife, she was attacked." The weirdest part, when she was attacked, it was a bright day. It was even morning, I would say. And they were done with the fight in the late night. So when he came to his wife, immediately, almost, I mean, like, I don't even know where she was, that he was able to get from the battlefield, get on his horse, and from night to, I guess, maybe like early morning, come to his wife and get to the point where he meets these Muslims and his wife. So basically, he kills his wife, unfortunately, because when he's throwing a knife in one of the Muslim, he actually accidentally gets it through him into his wife, and she actually dies. The fact that the entire field was covered in snow, and it was in the morning, and the battle that they were taking place of this battle, it was definitely early spring or late spring, and it was nighttime, and then unexpectedly they met each other out of nowhere. I mean, like, what is the point in this? Maybe it's too dumb to create it this way. That is the main reason why I don't understand what was the point in showing us actually different, I guess, timing. I don't know. And the weirdest part was when he realized that his wife was dead. He came to his priest and he started throwing around some very loud statements like, "You didn't protect her, it's your fault, and I hate God." And he literally kills the priest. In this way, he's kind of cursed. The main issue was, like, how did he become a Dracula? They didn't really show us in this film. They didn't show how his fangs grew up. Why did he have to start drinking blood? What was the reason? I mean, like, we knew that he had become Dracula, but when did he become? What was the reason, except for the fact that he killed the priest? And how did he find out that he's a monster right now, that he can die or whatever? And that was the weirdest part, that we don't really get the entire story, how he had become Dracula. We are going to be witnessing only the fact that he is still madly in love with his wife, and he's practically waiting for his wife to reincarnate. And then when he was looking for his wife for centuries, he was not allowed. It was a plague time, and that was the main reason why a lot of the times people, they wanted to be safe, and the only safe place they thought was going to be is church. And that is the main reason why a lot of the times girls and women, they went to this, sacred place, and they tried to pray and save their own lives. That was the main reason why he couldn't get into these churches and he couldn't search for his wife. And the weirdest part, that when he finally found his wife later in this film, he gets to the nuns, the monastery. He gets to the nuns and he's just like, "Are you going to be kind enough to get me in and give me a bowl of soup?" And they're like, "Yeah, of course, we're going to give you a bowl of soup. Just please follow us along." And out of nowhere, he can be staying in a sacred place full of nuns, full of crucifix. And I was like, it doesn't really make sense, honestly. If it's more or less, I would say, realistic, then he could have asked someone to invite him in to church and he could still search for his wife. But then when he came along and he wanted to feed, he asked nuns to invite him over and he could stand on holy ground. I mean, like, it really doesn't make sense. What is the point? I mean, you can be in church, but you can't be in the monastery. It was really stupid. And then why was the reason he wanted to feed out of, like, nuns? He literally killed his own wife. That was on him. And then he killed a priest who told him that it's not a good thing to actually ask me to bring back your wife. I'm like, I don't really have this power. And he kills him. And then he's like, "I'm going to kill nuns right now. I'm just going to go and slaughter them for no reason, just because I need a feed." The weirdest part was that out of nowhere, I mean, the way he actually consumed those nuns with the help of some perfume. And this perfume was only affecting women. And while he was telling the story about the way how he was kind of like creating this perfume, why did he need this perfume? He created this perfume in order to make his wife to find him in return. I'm like, but how is that possible? This perfume has a very limited range of not even range, but like, you can't smell it from afar. That is the main reason why you have to be in a very small space with Dracula, and then he was searching among royalties, but he wasn't searching among like regular women. That is another like weird thing. Like, what if she was reincarnated as a peasant? I mean, why not? And then when he created this perfume, this story looked like Perfume, the story of the murderer. I mean, look at this bit and small part of it. While the Dracula was in his castle and one of the lawyers came over to ask for, I guess, to sell some of Dracula's properties or something like this. I mean, this was apart from Netflix series, more or less, where he realized that the love interest of this lawyer was, in fact, his reincarnated wife. And while he was greeting the lawyer, he had the most bizarre hairstyle. And this hairstyle is actually coming from 1992 version of Dracula, which was the most corny and I guess was trolled years and years later. And Luc Besson actually implemented this part into the film for him to wear this wig. And I'm like, okay, it just doesn't really make sense. It looks like you get new Dracula compiled from different other stories and different films, and then creating like a very messy version where he didn't even want to focus on something in particular. He didn't show us the true love. He didn't show us how he had become Dracula, what was motivating him, except for the fact that he really loved his wife. The fact that he tried to kill himself so many years unsuccessfully, that tells me a lot. But then the priest, right at the end of the film, kills him with a stake and I guess a prayer. So that doesn't actually make sense. He could have gone to the priest, like a local priest, and tell him his story that he was Dracula. He wanted to die, but he couldn't. And this priest, I'm pretty much sure, could have killed him with a stake and with a prayer. But, just like it doesn't really make sense. When he finds his love, when he finally gets to his wife and she out of nowhere remembers the entire past life, like she had some memories of the past life. I mean, like, how could she remember any of it? It's so weird and surreal that okay, we're gonna give it a slack, and she's back with Dracula, and they're back in their castle, and out of nowhere, the entire army, I would say, of soldiers, they came along in 30 minutes after they were back to their castle. How were they able to get the entire army from France to Romania that quickly to destroy the entire castle? I mean, I don't really understand that, especially the fact that this is the army from France come into the territory of Romania. I mean, like, no suspicions, no nothing. Like, it's so crazy to me that they created the entire film based on just like, oh, I'm gonna create whatever I want because I'm Luc Besson, I guess, and people are gonna watch it because they know that I create great films. I don't know. In my opinion, that doesn't actually make sense, especially the way he was making new vampires, and I guess new vampires were made. Every single time you bite someone, this is going to become a new vampire. So according to this theory that he bit a lot of, at least girls, during some balls in the 17th or 16th century, I mean, they would definitely turn so much more people into vampires. So when the girl was found to be like a real vampire, and the priest was like, this is the first ever, I guess, a live vampire that we could see and obtain and kind of like study, I'm like, that doesn't really make sense because he created so many vampires and they later bit other, people that would turn into vampires, that vampires would literally just like take over the planet within a couple of centuries. And it literally just made no sense because vampires, they were feeding from people a lot. I would say that when they were back to their castle, and they almost had this intimate moment again because they had the great love. You remember that? And again, everything was super sexualized. When he was gifting her the music box, she was like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. I really like it. And he's like, yeah, every single time my wife wanted me or wanted to have sex with me, she would play this music. I'm like, it's not a love, it's lust. There is a difference between lust and love. And more likely he was missing this lust with his wife than a real wife. So when he came back with his wife, I'm still coming back to the story, to this castle, and the war was over. The priest killed Dracula, and he said, I want to protect you, Mina, from myself. That's why I'm going to sacrifice myself. So, like, first and foremost, why did you go and start looking for Mina? Because Mina didn't need you. You found her. You told her that you meant to be together, and then you killed yourself in 400 years. I mean, like, what's the point? And in this castle, Dracula had some stone demons. I don't know what was that they were running around, and they were servants, I guess, basically. When Dracula died, these statues that were alive, stone statues, they turned into kids, literal kids, bold and with, I guess, white complexion, but still were kids. Were they turned into the stones? Why weren't they vampires? Why were they like these stones? We don't really get any answer to any question. This is just like the fact. He's Dracula. He can do whatever he wants. He has some weird power. Who gifted him this power? Why? I mean, in 2014 adaptation, he traded his soul in order to obtain these powers. Okay, so he had to sacrifice his soul. He had to sacrifice his need to drink blood in order to save his people, to save his family, and get the power, access to this power. And this was more like love to his own people and love to his family. And in this option, he just out of nowhere killed the priest, and someone for that gifted him this power. I'm like, why? Why would you give it to him? You have no contract with this Dracula. You can just definitely make him drink blood and give him no power. Curse him, I guess. Who gifted power? I mean, like, it's super messy. And then about vampires. We got to see only one vampire, and she was redheaded, and it was so corny, guys. Very corny. She was constantly licking her teeth. She was sexually crazy, like she needed sex all the time, I guess. She was crazy fun, like she completely lost her personality when she had become a vampire, and she, literally had turned into a slutty, blood-sucking, I don't know, creature that was into fun, and that was it. I don't understand what was the point of this vampire. And yeah, it was super weird, like licking her things and licking her teeth all the time. Ew, didn't really look good. So yeah, basically my favorite adaptation is 2014, because in 1992 I would still not be really into this option, because the beginning of the film, every single film I guess, is really nice, and I love the idea of the story, but the ending, most of the time ending is crazy. It's just like full of hallucinations, especially the 1992 version. The Netflix version of their series was as well a little bit too much, and I guess only in 2014 we get a really nice ending where everything is nice, clear, to the point, logical, and yeah, I really love this interpretation. So let me know your thoughts. Did you like this Dracula? I don't know, I really love a lot of Luc Besson's films, and that was disappointing to see a lot of misses in this film, except for the costumes and the view. It was very, very poor quality, and the storyline wasn't well written. That is the main reason. Like, it's not about even the finances. I don't really think they had a lot of the budget. They didn't have much of a budget, or they probably spent it all on the costumes. But from my point of view, you could have written some story that would be understandable for all of us. We can understand where they were coming from, and they didn't do that. They didn't. This love is definitely basically honeymoon phase, like someone who just met each other, and the only way around is just to have sex and play in the bed. He's just the weirdest prince ever. He didn't really care about his nation. He didn't care about his wife in some way, and yeah, kind of crazy thing. But let me know your thoughts. Maybe watch this film and you can highly disagree with every single point that I made about the film, but I'm gonna be harsh on that. It was a disaster. I love you all so much, and I'm gonna see you in my next podcast. That's fine with me. If you have any anonymous questions or any proposals or any stories to share, let me know through the mail that you're seeing on the screen right now, or you can check this through the description box, and I will keep your name anonymous and probably share your story. If you want me, I can share your story in my next podcast. I love you all so much, guys, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.